Padmé Amidala had always believed compassion was stronger than fear. It had carried her through the invasion of Naboo when she was still young enough that other rulers would have hidden behind advisors and guards. It had guided her through the Senate when the Republic became a maze of polished lies. It had led her into secret marriage with Anakin Skywalker, not because it was wise, not because it was safe, but because she had looked into the heart of a man forged by slavery and war, and decided that love was worth the danger. Compassion was the reason she stayed awake long after Senate sessions ended, reading casualty reports from worlds whose names most senators could not pronounce. It was the reason she visited the refugee wards beneath Coruscant's bright towers, where children with dust in their hair learned to sleep through the distant thunder of traffic, and mothers clutched ration vouchers as if paper could become bread if held tightly enough. It was the reason she argued against more emergency powers, more war spending, more fleets, more clones, more sacrifice. And it was the reason Chancellor Palpatine chose her. He did not come to her as a conqueror. He came as a weary old mentor, shoulders bowed beneath the weight of a galaxy that had forgotten how to heal. He found her after a failed vote, when her motion to divert military funds into relief ships had been buried beneath procedure and applause from men who had never seen a starving child. Padme stood alone on a balcony of the Senate office tower, watching rain slide down the transparisteel. Coruscant glittered below her, endless and indifferent. "Another defeat," Palpatine said softly behind her. She did not turn. "You make it sound like a game." "In politics, my dear, everything is a game to those who are not suffering." "That is why I hate it." "Yet you remain." She faced him then. "Because leaving would be easier." A faint smile touched his mouth. "And you have never chosen the easy path." There was warmth in his voice, the old Naboo gentleness she remembered from childhood. That was the first hook. Not flattery, not command, but familiarity. He spoke to her as if they were both survivors of the same small world, both exiles inside the vast machine of the Republic. "The Senate will not act," Padme said. "The Jedi cannot act unless they are ordered. The military acts only where victory can be measured. Meanwhile, entire systems are collapsing." "Yes," Palpatine said, "I know." The simplicity of it broke something in her. No argument, no correction, no gentle reminder that democracy was slow by design. Just agreement. "What am I supposed to do with knowing?" she asked. "What good is compassion if it never reaches anyone in time?" Palpatine stepped beside her. In the rain-streaked glass, his reflection looked older than he did in the chamber, almost fragile. "Compassion without power is grief," he said. "Power without compassion is tyranny. The tragedy of this age is that good people have allowed cruel people to possess one, while they cling helplessly to the other." Padme stared at him. He did not press. That was the second hook. He let silence do the work. Far below, a medical shuttle lifted from the underlevels and vanished into the storm. The next week, a relief convoy disappeared near the mid-rim. The official report called it regrettable. The military council called it expected. The Jedi called it another symptom of a war stretching too thin across too many fronts. Padme called it murder. The convoy had carried medicine, grain, and portable shelters to civilians trapped between separatist blockades and Republic counteroffensives. No weapons, no troops, no military codes. The kind of mission even the most cynical senator should have been ashamed to oppose. Anakin came to her apartment that night in secret, slipping through the service entrance with his cloak pulled low. He found her sitting on the floor among open files, her hair unbound, her face pale with exhaustion. "Padme," he said, kneeling before her. "I heard." She gave a bitter little laugh. "Everyone heard. No one will do anything. I'll find who did it." "And then what?" He hesitated. "That is always the question, isn't it?" she whispered. "We find who did it. We condemn them. We send more soldiers, more ships, more speeches. Then it happens again. Anakin touched her hands. His mechanical fingers were cool against her skin, but his living hand was warm, trembling with restrained anger. I can protect you, he said. I know. I can protect the people you send me to protect. No, Anakin. Her eyes lifted to his. You can save the ones in front of you, but the war is too large for heroes. Pain crossed his face. Not anger at her. Anger at a galaxy that kept making his strength feel small. You sound like the Chancellor, he said. Padmé stiffened. Anakin noticed. Has he been talking to you? He listens. So do I. You listen because you love me. He listens because he understands the system. I don't trust him. Padmé pulled her hands away, softer than rejection, but colder than comfort. You trust the Jedi Council, and they have turned you into a weapon they barely respect. His jaw tightened. This isn't about me. No, she said. It is about all of us. The Jedi, the Senate, the courts, the committees. Everyone waiting for permission while people die. Anakin looked at the files scattered around them. Images of burned settlements, evacuation lists, missing children, requests stamped delayed, denied, pending. His voice lowered. What are you going to do? Padmé did not answer. But the next morning, she accepted a private audience with the Chancellor. Palpatine received her in a smaller office than usual, away from advisors and guards. On his desk rested a stack of reports identical to hers, except his had red seals that marked them classified. You have seen only the wounds, he said. I can show you the disease. He opened the files. There were senators taking bribes to delay aid routes until their own companies could profit. Republic officers abandoning refugee corridors to preserve fuel for offensives. Separatist agents hiding among relief networks. Banking clans extending loans to devastated worlds at impossible rates. Guilds charging evacuation fees. Governors exaggerating casualty numbers to receive supplies, then selling those supplies to the desperate. Padmé read until her vision blurred. Why show me this? She asked. Because you are one of the few who will not look away. You have enough evidence to arrest half the Senate. And plunge the Republic into chaos before we have the strength to finish the war? If we wait for the perfect moment, there will be no Republic left to save. Palpatine leaned back. Then perhaps we need something stronger than the Republic. The words should have horrified her. Instead, they sat in the air like a forbidden truth. Palpatine watched her, eyes soft with patient sorrow. I am not speaking of dictatorship, he said. I am speaking of responsibility. A system that can be paralyzed by cowards is not moral simply because it has rules. Sometimes mercy requires speed. Sometimes justice requires secrecy. Sometimes compassion must be willing to frighten the cruel. Padmé closed the final report. Her hands were steady now. What do you want from me? Only what you have always given, Palpatine said. Your courage. The first operation had no name. Padmé refused to let it have one. Names made things permanent. Names made them easier to defend. It began as a network of emergency relief authorizations. A senator could sign petitions. A queen could open a palace. A wife could beg a Jedi. But a trusted ally of the Chancellor could move ships, freeze accounts, redirect medicine, expose traitors, and silence profiteers before they knew they had been seen. Padmé told herself it was not illegal, not truly. The Chancellor had emergency authority. She had moral authority. The victims had no time for legal language. The results came quickly. A starving moon received food before its local governor could sell the shipment. A separatist spy ring inside a refugee agency vanished into custody. A corrupt weapons minister resigned after evidence of stolen Bacta appeared on every major news feed. Children who would have died in underground shelters were carried on to Republic transports before bombardment began. For the first time in months, Padmé slept. Then came the mining world of Velmora. The Separatists had fortified the planet's largest settlement and placed shield generators inside civilian districts. Republic Command wanted to wait for a siege. The Jedi wanted time to negotiate. The local population had less than a week before water systems failed. Padmé was not supposed to be there, but she had gone with the relief fleet. Anakin found her in the command tent, arguing with a clone officer while artillery flashed beyond the horizon. "You can't be here," Anakin said. "Neither can the people trapped in that city." Obi-Wan Kenobi stood nearby, mud on his boots, eyes tired beneath calm discipline. "Senator, the shield generators are surrounded by civilian structures. If we strike them from orbit, thousands may die. If you wait, many more will die of thirst. We are attempting to open a corridor. You have been attempting for days." Anakin looked between them. "There may be another way." "There is always another way," Padmé said. "That is what everyone says when they are not the ones counting bodies." Obi-Wan's expression sharpened. Padmé. She had known Obi-Wan long enough to hear the warning in the use of her name. Not Senator, not Milady. Padmé. He was asking her to step back from an edge. Behind him, a holomap flickered. Blue icons for Republic forces, red for droids, white for civilians. The white lights were clustered around the generators like souls gathered around a fire. Palpatine's words returned to her. "Compassion without power is grief." Padmé looked at the clone officer. "Can you target the shield nodes without striking the hospitals?" The officer hesitated. "Not with certainty. With probability. High probability of success. Severe collateral risk." "How severe?" No one spoke. Padmé looked at Anakin. She wanted him to stop her. She wanted him to say he could save them all. She wanted the boy who had once promised to free every slave to somehow free an entire city from consequence. Instead, she saw the truth in his eyes. He could not. Padmé turned back to the officer. "Fire." Obi-Wan moved. "Senator, you do not have authority." "I have authorization from the Chancellor." The orbital strike fell like a second dawn. The shields collapsed. Republic forces entered the city within the hour. Water systems were restored by nightfall. Tens of thousands survived. Thousands did not. Padmé walked through the ruins at dawn. A child followed her for several streets, silent, carrying a cracked cup. He did not ask for anything. He only stared. When Padmé knelt before him, he held out the cup. There was dust inside. No water, no food, no accusation. Just dust. She took it from him with both hands, and something inside her shifted. Not broke. Breaking was too gentle a word. It changed shape, like metal heated until it could be bent into a weapon. That night, she returned to Coruscant and stood again before Palpatine. "I gave the order," she said. "I know." "People died." "Yes." "I saved more." "Yes." "Then why does it feel like murder?" Palpatine rose and came around the desk. "Because you are still innocent enough to mourn necessity." "Do not call it necessity." "What would you call it?" Padmé closed her eyes. The child's cup felt heavy in her memory. "I would call it failure." "Whose?" She opened her eyes. Palpatine waited. The answer came slowly. "Everyone's." His voice softened. "Then end the age of everyone." She should have left. She should have gone to Bail Organa, to Mon Mothma, to Obi-Wan, even to Anakin. She should have confessed the secret authorizations, the hidden arrests, the strike order, the awful seduction of results. Instead, she asked, "How?" Palpatine smiled. Not broadly, not cruelly. Sadly, as if he had waited a long time for her to become wise enough to suffer. After Velmora, Padmé changed in ways few people could name. She still spoke of peace. She still visited hospitals. She still wore the gowns of a senator, still smiled for citizens, still lowered herself to listen to children. But her mercy gained edges. Her speeches no longer pleaded, they warned. She no longer asked the Senate to remember its conscience. She accused it of losing one. The people loved her for it. The corrupt feared her. The Jedi grew quiet. Anakin felt the change most of all because he loved her most. Love made him sensitive to small things. The pause before she answered, the way she watched Senate rivals as if judging how much damage they could cause before they were removed. The way her hand sometimes drifted to her stomach when she thought no one noticed. He learned she was pregnant during a rainstorm. She told him in the apartment with the lights low and the city blurred beyond the windows. For a moment, the war vanished. Anakin fell to his knees before her, laughing and crying at once, pressing his face against her as if the future had become something he could hold. Our child. Padmé touched his hair. Our children. He looked up. She smiled for the first time in weeks, without sadness. Anakin's joy filled the room like sunrise. Then fear followed it. Children meant discovery. Discovery meant scandal. Scandal meant the Jedi, the Senate, the Chancellor. Enemies, assassins, rules, judgment. Padmé saw each thought cross his face. No, she said gently. He blinked. No what? No fear. Not tonight. I'm not afraid. She gave him a look. He tried to smile, failed, then pressed his forehead to her hands. I won't let anyone take them from us. A chill passed through her, not because of the words, because she believed them, because she loved him for saying them, because some part of her wondered who she would destroy to make sure he kept that promise. Later, after Anakin slept, Padmé stood alone by the window. A reflection appeared in the glass beside hers. Palpatine had given her a private comlink for emergencies. It rested on the table, silent, untouched. Yet she heard his voice in memory, as clearly as if he stood behind her. The Jedi take children from families because they fear attachment. Remember that when they speak to you of compassion. Padmé placed a hand over her womb. No one will take you. The words were a mother's vow. They were also the first oath of a tyrant. Palpatine revealed himself not in darkness, but in candlelight. It was after a Senate session in which Padmé's relief authority had been challenged. Several senators demanded an investigation into unauthorized detentions and seized assets. Bail Organa had not accused her directly, but his eyes found hers across the chamber, troubled and pleading. She avoided him afterward. Palpatine summoned her to a chamber beneath the executive offices, an old ceremonial room from the earliest days of the Republic. Candles burned along the walls. Ancient carvings showed founders holding scales, swords, and scrolls. How many lies is a good person allowed to tell before becoming wicked? Padmé asked as soon as she entered. Palpatine stood with his back to her. That depends on how many lives the truth would cost. I am tired of answers that sound wise and mean nothing. Good. He turned. The warmth was gone. Not entirely. That was what made it terrible. His face still belonged to the old man from Naboo. His eyes did not. Padmé stopped. The air itself seemed to tighten. You, she whispered. He did not deny it. Her hand went to the small blaster hidden in her sleeve. Palpatine looked almost amused. If I wanted you dead, Senator, you would not have reached the door. You are the Sith Lord. Yes. Her breath came shallowly. You started the war. I shaped a war others had already made inevitable. You monster. Yes. The admission struck harder than any denial. Padmé drew the blaster. Give me one reason not to kill you. Because the war ends when I say it ends. Her finger tightened. Because the Separatist leaders obey a creature who fears me more than death, Palpatine continued. Because the Senate is rotten beyond reform. Because the Jedi already suspect me, and when they move, the Capitol will burn. Because you are carrying children the Jedi will claim must be surrendered to their order. And because Anakin Skywalker will tear the galaxy apart before he lets that happen. Padmé's hand trembled. There. The blade slid between armor plates. "You do not know him." "I know him better than they do." "No!" "I know what he fears. I know what he dreams. I know what he would do for love. Do you?" Padmé's eyes burned. "You have manipulated him." "I have prepared him." "For what?" "For the same truth you have already learned." Palpatine stepped closer. "Power is not evil. Power is a tool. The Jedi fear it because they fear themselves. The Senate abuses it because they worship themselves. But you, Padmé, you could wield it for others." "I will not be your servant." "No." His smile returned, faint and poisonous. "You would be far more useful as my conscience." The insult should have enraged her. Instead, it tempted her. Her blaster remained raised, but the shot did not come. Palpatine lowered his voice. "Do you think I want a galaxy of ashes? Dead citizens pay no taxes. Broken worlds build no fleets. Fear can conquer, but it cannot govern forever. I need order. You need mercy. Together, we can end this war in days." "With slavery?" "With stability. With murder." "With fewer graves than the Jedi will leave by hesitation." "With lies?" "With peace." Padmé shook her head. "Peace built on evil is evil." "Peace built on weakness does not last long enough to be judged." The candle flames bent, though there was no wind. Padmé thought of Velmora, of the child with the cup, of refugee wards, of Anakin's sleeping face, of unborn children with impossible futures, of Jedi taking infants and senators selling medicine and generals measuring villages against objectives. She hated him. She hated that he was evil. She hated that evil had answers. "What do you want?" she asked. Palpatine's eyes gleamed. "For you to stop pretending compassion must be gentle." Anakin did not learn the truth from the Jedi. He learned it from Padmé. She came to him in the old Senate gardens, where artificial streams ran beneath flowering trees imported from worlds that had not seen war in generations. He arrived in his Jedi robes, tense from a council meeting that had once again asked him to spy on the Chancellor without granting him trust. Padmé wore dark blue, almost black, with silver at her throat. Beautiful, regal, frightening. "I know what he is," she said. Anakin froze. "Who?" "Palpatine." The garden seemed to go silent. Anakin stepped closer. "What did he tell you?" "The truth?" His face drained. "Padmé, listen to me. If he's what I think he is, we have to tell the Council now." "I already know what the Council will do." "They will arrest him." "They will try." "He's a Sith Lord." "Yes." The calmness of her answer unsettled him more than panic would have. "Then why are you standing here? Why didn't you come to me the second you knew?" "Because I needed to think." "Think?" His voice cracked. "Padmé, he has been behind everything." "I know. He caused the war." "I know. He has killed millions." "I know." Anakin stared at her, as if seeing a stranger wearing his wife's face. "Then help me stop him." "And what happens after?" "That doesn't matter. It matters more than anything." She moved toward him, urgent now. "The Senate will fracture, the military will split, the Jedi will seize control in the name of restoring order, and half the galaxy will believe they staged a coup. The Separatists will keep fighting, the systems already starving will starve faster. We will trade one war for many." "He is evil." "Yes." "Then there is no compromise." Padmé's eyes flashed. "That is Jedi thinking. Clean words, simple lines, no room for the dying trapped between them." Anakin recoiled. "Don't. I am not attacking you." "You're defending him." "I am defending what we can save." "With a Sith?" "With power." Anakin's anger rose, hot and familiar. For once, it was not reckless. It was terrified. "What has he done to you?" Padmé flinched as if he had struck her. Then the hurt hardened. He showed me what everyone else was too afraid to admit. He twisted you. No, Anakin. He trusted me with the truth. The truth? Anakin laughed once, harshly. Sith don't trust. They use. And the Jedi don't? He stepped back. Padmé regretted it immediately, but not enough to take it back. The Council uses your loyalty while fearing your heart, she said. They ask you to betray a mentor, then call you unstable for being conflicted. They teach children not to love, then wonder why compassion fades into obedience. They would take our children if they knew. Anakin's breathing changed. There it was, the wound she knew, the wound Palpatine had taught her to touch. But Anakin surprised her. He looked at her stomach, then at her face, and something in him steadied. Our children won't be saved by becoming the thing we're afraid of. Padmé's eyes filled with tears. He reached for her. Come with me. Right now. We'll go to Obi-Wan, to Yoda, to anyone but him. She almost took his hand. For one heartbeat, the future changed. She saw Naboo sunlight, saw children running through grass, saw Anakin laughing without war in his eyes, saw herself putting down every secret, every justification, every hidden blade. Then she saw the child with the cup. The vision shattered. I can't, she whispered. Anakin's hand fell. You mean you won't? Padmé looked away. In the distance, Senate bells began to ring. Not ceremonial bells, emergency bells. Across Coruscant, the Jedi moved against the Chancellor. Palpatine had known they would. Padmé had told him they would. By the time Mace Windu entered the Chancellor's office with Jedi at his side, the trap had already opened. There were no battle droids waiting, no hidden army, no theatrical confession. Palpatine did not need such things. He had sealed the Senate district under emergency security protocols. He had scattered loyal clone divisions through the temple approaches. He had filled the news channels with rumors of Jedi treason before the first lightsaber ignited. But he had miscalculated one thing. Anakin Skywalker did not come to save him. He went to warn the temple. The purge began unevenly. Some clones obeyed the command without hesitation. Some hesitated when Jedi they had served beside for years called them by name. Some died in confusion, caught between loyalty bred into their bones and trust earned in blood. Across the galaxy, the Order struck like lightning through a forest too dry to survive. On Coruscant, Anakin arrived at the temple before the main assault. He did not have time to explain everything. He did not need to. The fear on his face did what words could not. Seal the youngling halls, he told the temple guard. Move the children to the lower evacuation tunnels. Now. By whose command? Anakin ignited his blade. Blue light filled the corridor. Mine. Obi-Wan found him there minutes later, directing frightened initiates toward hidden passages. Anakin? Palpatine is Sidious. I know. Padmé knows too. Obi-Wan's expression shifted. Anakin looked at him, pleading without wanting to. She's with him. For a moment, Obi-Wan was not a general, not a Jedi master, not the negotiator. He was simply a man watching someone he loved break under the weight of too much loss. I am sorry, he said. Anakin shook his head. Be sorry later. Together they held the temple gate while children fled beneath them. In the Senate chamber, Padmé listened to Palpatine declare the Jedi rebellion. He stood at the central podium, voice grave, face scarred from his confrontation with Mace Windu. Senators shouted, wept, demanded proof, demanded vengeance, demanded safety. Mas Amedda called for order. Bail Organa stood in his pod like a man watching democracy die from across a canyon. Padmé's own pod hovered near the Chancellor's. She had helped write the emergency address. Not the lies. She told herself that. She had not written the lies, only the promises afterward. Relief, reconstruction, anti-corruption tribunals, protection for war orphans, food lanes under military guard, an end to the conflict. Mercy with teeth. Palpatine lifted his hands, and the chamber quieted. The Republic has been betrayed, he said, but it shall not fall. In order to preserve peace, security, and justice. We must reorganize into an authority strong enough to protect every loyal citizen from chaos. The vote thundered around her. Padmé did not clap. Bail looked at her. She could not meet his eyes. When her turn came to speak, the chamber waited. Everyone knew her as the voice of conscience, the senator who had challenged militarization at every step. If she opposed Palpatine, the vote might fracture. If she supported him, history would move. Padmé rose. "My friends," she began. Her voice echoed. "I have spent my life believing liberty and compassion were the same. I still believe they should be. But I have seen worlds where liberty meant the freedom of the powerful to abandon the weak. I have seen procedure used as a weapon against the starving. I have seen law protect thieves while children die under lawful delays." The chamber grew still. "I do not celebrate this transformation. I mourn the failure that made it necessary." Bail closed his eyes. Padmé placed both hands on the rail of her pod. "But mourning will not feed a single child. It will not end a siege. It will not restore the dead. If this new order is to exist, then we must bind it to mercy. We must make it answer not only to security, but to the suffering it claims to prevent." Palpatine watched her with satisfaction. Padmé felt it and hated him. Still, she spoke the final words. "For the sake of peace, I support the Chancellor." Applause erupted. The Republic died to the sound of gratitude. Padmé gave birth in secret on Naboo. Palpatine wanted the children brought to Coruscant. He spoke of security, medical excellence, symbolic unity. Padmé refused with a coldness that surprised even him. There were still lines she would not allow him to cross. Anakin was not there. That pain nearly killed her. She had imagined many futures in fear. Anakin dead, Anakin fallen, Anakin taken by the Jedi, Anakin kneeling before Sidious. She had not imagined Anakin alive and choosing to stand against her. The twins were born before dawn as rain fell over the lake country. A boy first, furious at the world. A girl second, quieter, eyes open as if judging it. Padmé held them both and wept. No speech, no strategy, no empire could survive the weight of them. For a few hours, she was not the woman who had helped end the Republic. She was not Palpatine's conscience or the Senate's fallen star. She was a mother, terrified and overwhelmed, kissing tiny hands. Then a hologram arrived. Palpatine appeared in blue light, hood lowered, smile thin. "Congratulations, my dear." Padmé's arms tightened around the children. "What do you want?" "To ensure you are safe." "I am. And the children?" "They are not yours." His smile did not change. "Everything within my empire is under my protection." "Protection is not possession." "No," he said softly, "but power is." The transmission ended. Padmé sat awake until sunrise. By then, she understood. Palpatine had not wanted her as his conscience. Not truly. A conscience can advise. A conscience can resist. A conscience can shame. He had wanted her as proof. Proof that compassion could serve tyranny. Proof that the brightest voice of the Republic could bless the Empire if the circumstances were cruel enough. And her children were more than heirs. They were leverage. Anakin came to Naboo 3 nights later. He entered through the lake retreat's old passageways, the ones they had once used for secrecy, when secrecy still felt romantic instead of tragic. Padmé sensed him before she saw him, not through the Force, not as Jedi did, but through the ache of a bond stretched almost to breaking. He stood in the nursery doorway, hood shadowing his face. For a moment, neither moved. The twins slept in a carved cradle between them. Anakin looked thinner, older. There was a burn along his jaw and grief in his eyes. "Padmé." "You came." "I had to see them." "And me?" He swallowed. She deserved the silence. He stepped to the cradle. The boy stirred, tiny fist opening. Anakin touched him with one trembling finger. and the hardness in his face dissolved. Then the girl opened her eyes, and Anakin let out a sound like a sob crushed before it could escape. "What did you name them?" he asked. "I waited." He looked at her then. Padmé's tears fell freely. "I wanted us to choose together." For a while, the Empire did not exist. They named the boy Luke because Padmé said he felt like light returning after a long night. They named the girl Leia because Anakin said she looked like she had already decided to argue with the stars. Then the world returned. "You have to come with me," Anakin said. Padmé closed her eyes. "Obi-Wan has friends. Bail has safe routes. Yoda survived. We can disappear. Palpatine will hunt them forever. He already will. If I leave, he will burn worlds to find us. If you stay, he will use you to burn them slower." She flinched. Anakin stepped closer. "Padmé, please. You think I don't want to? I think you're afraid wanting it won't be enough." Her breath caught. He knew her, even now. "I can restrain him," she said, but it sounded weak even to her. "No, you can't. I have influence. He lets you have influence because it serves him. I can save lives. And lose yourself, one piece at a time?" Padmé looked toward the cradle. "I already have." Anakin's anger faded, leaving only devastation. "No," he said. "Not all of you." The door opened behind him. Red light filled the nursery. Anakin spun, lightsaber flashing to life. Palpatine stood in the doorway, with royal guards behind him. "Touching," he said. "Dangerous, but touching." Padmé moved between him and the cradle. "You were not invited. This is my empire. I require no invitation." Anakin's blade hummed. "Stay away from them." Palpatine's eyes glittered. "Still barking like a Jedi guard dog. I offered you destiny, boy. You chose sentiment. I chose them." "No," Palpatine said. "You chose weakness and called it love." Padmé felt something inside her ignite. Not fear, not ambition, not even anger. A mother's refusal. Palpatine lifted a hand toward the cradle. The twins began to cry. Anakin lunged. The guards moved. Padmé did not think. She seized the ceremonial lamp beside the cradle and hurled it at the window. Glass shattered inward from pressure changes, rain blasting through the nursery. At the same instant, she grabbed the small holdout blaster hidden beneath the cradle blanket and fired at the lights. Darkness swallowed the room. Anakin's blue blade became the only moon. Padmé swept both children into her arms and ran through the hidden door behind the wall tapestry. She heard Anakin behind her, then the crash of lightning. He screamed. She stopped. Every instinct told her to keep running. Compassion told her to go back. For once, she understood the trap. Compassion could be twisted into obedience, into guilt, into surrender. Palpatine had used every wound in her heart to make cruelty feel like duty. But compassion did not have to obey fear. Padmé placed the twins in the arms of the old Naboo attendant waiting in the passage. "Take them to the water dock," she said. "My lady, now!" Padmé returned to the nursery. Anakin was on his knees, smoke rising from his tunic. Palpatine stood over him, hand raised for another strike. Padmé stepped from the passage with the blaster aimed at the Sith Lord's back. Palpatine did not turn. "You will not shoot me." "No," she said. "I will." He laughed. She fired. The bolt struck his shoulder, spinning him just enough for Anakin to rise. Blue light carved through red darkness. Palpatine staggered, not dead, not defeated, but surprised. That was enough. Anakin slammed him back with the Force. Padmé fired again, not at Palpatine, but at the weakened ceiling supports, cracked by lightning and storm pressure. Stone and carved wood collapsed between them, sealing the chamber in dust. Anakin grabbed her hand. They ran. At the dock, rain lashed the lake into silver knives. The twins wailed beneath blankets. A small royal skiff waited with its engines cold and lights dimmed. Obi-Wan stood beside it. Padmé stopped. His expression was unreadable. Then he bowed his head. Senator. She almost broke. Not because he forgave her. He did not say that. Not because he trusted her. He had no reason to. Because he still saw her. Anakin helped her into the skiff. Obi-Wan took Leia while Padmé held Luke. The craft slipped across the black water as alarms began to scream behind them. From the retreat, fire rose into the rain. Palpatine survived. Padmé knew he would. Evil like that did not die because someone finally chose courage. The galaxy was not a story kind enough for that. But something had changed. By dawn, Bail Organa received a coded message from Naboo. By noon, scattered Jedi survivors knew Anakin Skywalker lived. By nightfall, hidden senators who had regretted their applause began whispering to one another in encrypted channels. And Padmé Amidala, once the Empire's brightest ornament, became its most dangerous traitor. She did not pretend redemption was simple. In the first months of hiding, she woke from nightmares of Velmora. Some nights, she heard applause in the Senate and could not breathe. Some nights, she looked at her children and wondered whether love had saved her or whether fear for them had simply dragged her from one selfishness into another. Anakin never lied to comfort her. That hurt. It also healed. When she asked if he hated her, he answered, "Sometimes." When she asked if he still loved her, he answered, "Always." When she asked whether love was enough, he said, "No, but it's where we start." Obi-Wan kept his distance at first. He watched her with the caution of a man who had seen good intentions become graves. But he also watched her feed refugee children in hidden camps, listened as she gave Bail the names of secret prisons she had helped authorize, stood silent as she testified by encrypted holo before senators who no longer knew whether to trust her. Yoda came once, small and ancient and sad. "Darkness and compassion there can be," he said. Padmé lowered her eyes. "I know. Hard to see when pain speaks with the voice of mercy." "I should have seen it." "Yes," Yoda said. The words struck cleanly. Then he added, "See it now, you do." Padmé wept after he left. Years later, stories would spread. Some said Padmé Amidala had been a victim of Sith manipulation. Others said she had been a collaborator who changed sides only when her own children were threatened. Some called her a fallen queen. Some called her the mother of rebellion. Some refused to speak her name at all. Padmé accepted every version. She had learned, at last, that good intentions did not erase harm. So she worked. She built evacuation networks through worlds that once cheered for her speeches. She recorded testimony against the Emperor. She argued with rebel leaders who wanted easy vengeance and reminded them that cruelty did not become justice because it changed banners. She held grieving mothers. She faced survivors of Velmora. Some cursed her. Some forgave her. Most did neither. She learned to live without demanding absolution. Anakin fought differently too. He was still fire, still reckless, still too willing to stand between danger and everyone else. But he no longer believed love meant possession. When fear for Padmé or the twins rose in him, he named it. When anger called, he breathed. When darkness promised him the power to prevent all loss, he remembered what it had done to the woman he loved. Luke grew curious and bright. Leia grew fierce and impossible. They knew their mother had made terrible choices before she made brave ones. Padmé insisted on that truth. Fairy tales were another kind of lie, and she had seen what lies could build. One evening on a hidden moon, long after the first rebel cells began to find one another, Padmé stood outside a cave base, watching her children chase fireflies beneath violet trees. Anakin came to stand beside her. "They're supposed to be asleep," he said. "So are you." "So are you." She smiled faintly. For a while they watched in silence. Then Padmé said, "Do you ever think about what would have happened if I had taken your hand in the garden?" Anakin's face softened with old pain. "Every day. I almost did." "I know. I was afraid compassion without power would fail them." He looked at Luke and Leia. "And now?" he asked. Padmé took a long breath. "Now I think compassion without humility becomes hunger. Compassion without truth becomes control. Compassion without limits becomes an excuse to decide who may suffer for everyone else." Anakin reached for her hand. This time, she took it. Across the stars, the Empire hunted them. Palpatine sat on his throne in Coruscant, wrapped in victory that had already begun to rot from within. Fleets moved, spies listened, fear spread. But so did something else. A senator who had once applauded the Empire smuggled medicine to rebels. A clone who had hesitated at the temple lowered his weapon on a distant world and let a Jedi child escape. A queen on Naboo refused an imperial census. A father told his daughter that Padmé Amidala had fallen, risen, and spent the rest of her life proving that one terrible choice did not have to be the final shape of a soul. And in the darkness between systems, a family the Emperor had tried to claim remained beyond his reach. Padmé watched Leia catch a firefly between her hands and then release it because Luke protested that light belonged in the air. For the first time in years, Padmé laughed. Not because the galaxy was safe, not because she was forgiven, not because the darkness had vanished. She laughed because the little light flew upward anyway, fragile and stubborn, blinking against the vast night. And Padmé Amidala, who had once mistaken control for mercy, finally understood. Compassion was not the power to end all suffering. It was the courage to love without becoming cruel. It was the strength to save what could be saved, mourn what could not, and never again call darkness necessary simply because it promised to make the hurting stop. Above her, the stars burned on. Not gentle, not safe, but still bright.